Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable, the Educator of Islamic Boarding School, Kiai Haji Muhammad Hasan Mutawakil Allah SHMM.
The Honorable Rector of Unzah, Dr. Abdul Aziz Wahab PIMAG.
Honorable to Ms. Sofiatul Hasana MPD as an English lecturer in the Philosophy of Islamic Education class.
Let me introduce myself. My name is Ummi Chofifah.
My name is Tarisa Sepdiana.
My name is Madinatul Munawaroh.
We are from
First group.
Here we will
explain about our result of observation and interview
At MTS Raudatul Khair, and we make this video
to complete the final exam
of Islamic Education Philosophy.
Okay, here I will explain the first slide. A background. Okay, so the background of this institution is that MTS Raudatul Khair was established in 1993, and at the time, the MTS Raudatul Khair institution was still hitchhiking or merging with other institutions, not yet using its own building. And then in 2003, MTS Raudatul Khair already used its own building and did not hitchhike in other institutions anymore. Then B. What is the purpose of our observation at this MTS Raudatul Khair institution? Which is, of course, to find out the quality of student learning, to find out how the atmosphere in the institution, to find out the availability of learning researchers, to find out which needs have been met or not and others. And then C. Reasons for choosing MTS Raudatul Khair. The reason we choose the MTS Raudatul Khair institution for observation is because the location is very easy to reach in terms of where we live and in terms of transportation. And also, the school is very easy and can be invited to cooperate so that it makes it easier for us to carry out this task.
Here, I will explain about data collection. Data collection from this observation was carried out by means of interview. According to Stewart and Coss, 2000, in the interview book completed by R.A. Fadollah, an interview is an interactional communication process between two parties, at last one of which has an anticipated and serious purpose and usually includes question and answer. In this interview, we interviewed 4 people from MTS Raudatul Khair. The first is the headmaster of MTS Raudatul Khair. The second, teacher of MTS Raudatul Khair. The third, one of the students at MTS Raudatul Khair. And the last one of the students' parents.
Observation specification table. Number 1, learning materials. Indicators student need for appropriate materials. And number 2, teaching challenges. Challenges faced by teacher in teaching. Yes, when teachers teach, what are the challenges? What challenges do teachers face in teaching? And number 3, learning process. Indicators, students actively ask and answer questions and participate in discussions. Whether students are active or not in the learning process, whether students are active in question and answer, and whether students participate in class discussion. And number 4, facilities and infrastructure. infrastructure. So, how is the availability of facilities and what is the condition of the facilities for learning?
Okay, the next, this is an explanation of the interview specification table and the themes of interview conducted like this. Number 1, interview component, student motivation in choosing an Islamic education institute. In this component, we ask the students to question with indicator like this. The first, to find out the learning motivation of students in Islamic educational institutes. This question aims to understand the reason and passion of students in choosing and studying in Islamic educational institutes. The second, to find out who the student motivation factor are. This question aims to identify the factor that motivates students to choose and continue studying in Islamic educational institutes, such as family, support, environment, or personal desire. Number two, interview component, parent satisfaction with educational institutes. In this component, we ask parents to question with these indicators. The first, to determine the level of satisfaction of the parents with the education that is provided. This question aims to evaluate how satisfied parents are with the quality of education and service provided by Islamic educational institutes. The second, to find out feedback and suggestions from parents regarding education. This question aims to gather feedback, criticisms, and suggestions from parents that can be used to improve the quality of education in the Islamic education institutes.
Okay, I am Ummi Chofifah. Next, number 3. The interview component is learning resources used, which means we observe the use of learning resources, whether it has been fulfilled or not. There are two indicators, namely, first, are learning resources adequate in the learning process? Second, to find out if the teacher has used it as well as possible, and the participant of this component is the teacher. Last, sufficient facilities and infrastructure. We observe whether the facilities and infrastructure in the MTS Raudatul Khair have been used and utilized properly or not. There are two indicators, namely, first, how the school provides facilities and infrastructure to students studying at the Islamic education institution. Second, whether existing facilities and infrastructure can be used properly. And the participant of this component is the headmaster. Next, here are the results of observation and interview that we have conducted with students, teachers, parents of students, and the headmaster of MTS Raudatul Khair. The first is the result of interview with students. We conducted an interview with one of the students of MTS Raudatul Khair about who and what are the factors of students going to school at the Islamic education institution. The answer from the interview is the motivation for studying at this school is to deepen the teachings of Islam and to make morals better, because when I went to this school or this Islamic education, I was taught many things about Islam and good morals. And who motivates me to study in this Islamic education is my cousin. So, from this answer, it can be seen that the reason students go to school at this educational institution wants to improve their morals, which continue to lead to better and want to know more about Islam. Then the factor that makes the student go to school at this institution is cousin, because her cousin said that going to school at an Islamic education institution makes you know more about Islam and will make morals better. The second interview is about the material taught by the teacher, whether it is in accordance with what is needed by students. Here, the students will have interview answer. The material provided by the teacher is sufficiently related to my needs who want to improve morals and know more about Islam. And also, when the teacher teaches, the explanation can be understood. So, from this answer, we can see that the material taught by the teacher was in line with the students, and also the material taught was enough to make the students know more about Islam and improve their morals.
And next, result of the interview with the parents of the students. Whether the parents of students are satisfied and what complaints the parent have about the institution. Number one, so of course the parents of the student are satisfied because the religious sciences are quite large in the institution, so it produces good and correct children. And number two, the answer to the second question is that the parents' complaints about the institution are due to the lack of building facilities, such as a library, because of course a student they really need a library to increase and their knowledge.
The next, here are the results of interview we conducted with teacher at MTS Raudatul Khair. First question, have the learning resources been adequate in the learning process? The teacher responds, the textbook used are very adequate and in accordance with the applicable curriculum. The books also provide relevant and useful material and are equipped with exercise that help students understand and master the concept taught. And yes, they are definitely used as well as possible. From the teacher response, we can see that the textbook at MTS Raudatul Khair are very adequate and in accordance with the applicable curriculum. The books are also used as well as possible to support the learning process. Second question, during the learning process are the students actively involved in the learning process such as answering questions or participating in discussion? The teachers respond. Sometimes students show active participation in teaching and learning activities. Although the majority of students in the course are boys who tend to joke around, disrupt classmates, and often show mischievous behavior, they are still able to listen to the teacher's explanation and participate in learning activities. From the interview result, we can see that sometimes students actively participate in learning. However, since the majority of students in the classes at MTS Raudatul Khair are boys, we tend to be mischievous. They do not always actively participate in lesson. Nonetheless, they still listen to the teacher's explanation.
And next, results interview with the headmaster. Number one, headmaster said, yes, of course, the facilities and infrastructure here are used as well as possible, such as projectors. If you need a projector during the learning process, of course, you immediately use the projector. And number two, we still don't have a library because we don't have the books and don't have money, and but the books used during the learning process are adequate, and building a library building is still not suitable because of the lack of funds.
Okay, the next point of view. After conducting observation and interview, it appears that MTS Raudatul Khair still has a lack of facilities and infrastructure such as libraries and laboratories. Because there is no library, the book used as references are somewhat lacking. But the books available are enough to be able to provide knowledge to student, and teacher are also able to teach it well because seeing from student responses regarding the teacher ability to teach.
Furthermore, the conclusion of the result of observation and interview at MTS Raudatul Khair is MTS Raudatul Khair has a strong commitment to providing quality education, although it still faces constraints in terms of facilities and infrastructure. Despite the lack of an adequate library and laboratory, the spirit of cooperation among headmaster, teachers, students, and parents has helped to enhance the learning experience. Despite the lack of infrastructure, teachers at MTS Raudatul Khair are still able to provide effective education. Efforts are needed to continuously improve the facilities and infrastructure so that better educational goals can be achieved. And the last slide is about reference that explain about facilities and infrastructure, how good educational facilities and infrastructure should be, and whether the absence of facilities and infrastructure will make education run well. So according to Nur Harira and Evani 2022, educational facilities and infrastructure is a resource that must exist in the world of education or a school to help the process of learning activities. The success of a process of education or learning activities in schools is greatly influenced by the state of educational facilities and infrastructure owned by school and the management of infrastructure facilities carried out. In addition to educators, facilities and infrastructure are very important in the world of education. Without adequate facilities and infrastructure, education will not be able to function well. However, the facilities and infrastructure will not be used optimally without the management carried out by the school concerned. So, from the explanation of facilities and infrastructure, according to Nur Harira and Afani 2022, that facilities and infrastructure are very important in education, and if in an institution there are adequate facilities and infrastructure, then the education will run well. But on the contrary, if in education there are no facilities and infrastructure, education will not run well. Likewise, if there are adequate facilities and infrastructure, there must be maximum management.
That's all the explanation from us.
If there are wrong words, we apologize.
Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.